we can confidently say that there are more Muslims that have come to Jesus in the past 20 years than in the previous 1,200 years. And it's happening in unique ways, unusual ways, and in unusual places. Yeah. There's some kinds of harvesting that's pretty easy. The fruit is ripe. You just almost touch it and it drops into your hand. That's a wonderful thing. Yeah. Now, working with Muslims is not that kind of harvesting. It's the first fruits. It's going out there and seeing that if that apple is really ready to come off the tree, or if it's still hung on tight and is going to resist your tug. And so you have to have a lot of patience, but you have to have a lot of persistence. And the fact that you tugged once and it wasn't ripe, anybody who knows harvesting knows, hey, just give it some time. A few days later, when you come back, that thing will be ripe. Sure, sure. And so that analogy can instruct us a lot. If we understand that it's not as much about what we are doing as what we are understanding God to be doing in the harvesting process. I can't ripen fruit. He ripens fruit. He's the Lord of the harvest. And not only does he send forth the workers, but he also oversees the harvest. And so I'm signing up to do his bidding. And if he says, go to the left field, then I go to the left field. If he says, no, today we're going to go to the right field, then I go to the right field. And if he says, I'm sorry, guys, but today's a weed pulling day, well, then guess what? Today we're going to go pull weeds. Because it's all part of the process. Sure, sure, sure. Most Muslims are people who take faith seriously, and they take God seriously. This actually comes from, what I'm about to say comes from America, but I think it brings out the point. I have a good friend who in a city here in America is actively involved in reaching out to Muslims. And he says inevitably, when he starts sharing about Jesus, the Muslims say to him, now these are immigrant Muslims coming into America, they say, we were wondering when somebody was going to talk to us about Jesus. Because they assume that America is a Christian country, and therefore all Americans are going to talk about Jesus, and they can't figure out why they refuse to do so. Wow. Because Muslims are more than willing to talk about their faith. Yes, yes, they are. And so because of that, they have a real interest in faith. Most of them are seekers of truth. They very much want to know truth. They believe that there's truth to be known, and that that truth will set them free. But and that's therefore the basis. What we do find, however, is that arguing with them is never going to bring them to a relationship with Jesus. Yeah. I've met very few people who have ever come to follow Jesus because they lost an argument.
Yeah, that's true.
But what we're finding is this. Muslims who come to Jesus, when we sit down and say to them, tell us how it happened, they tell us something like this. Well, there was a Christian that I happened to meet who really reached out to me as a friend. And so because of that, we started talking more and more, and I asked questions, and finally he gave me a New Testament. And I began to read that New Testament, and I saw things about Jesus that I'd never been told. And then one night I had a dream. And in that dream, Jesus came to me, or in that dream an angel talked to me, or something like that. So what we really are seeing, there's three components that are very present with Muslims who come to Jesus. One is the love of God that's expressed by Christians. The second is the truth of God that comes right out of His Word. And the third is the power of God, which God Himself shows up with power, whether it's a dream or a miracle, an answered prayer, something. He shows up, and it's the combination of those things. It's like a recipe. The key, though, is Christians who are not afraid and are willing to overcome their fear and begin to love and genuinely express love and understand Muslims are not your enemy. Muslims do not hate you. They're waiting for somebody to reach out to them in love.
Yeah,
We try to find ways of engaging with Muslims where they are.
That's where I want to
Now, many of them, for example, the ones who are fresh off the boats, they have so many needs, and there's so much that we can do to help them.
Sure.
I know of one church, for example, that just to give you an illustration, this church has decided to love Muslim refugees. And what they do is that one day a week, they open up and make a meal. Now, they don't make a meal of their kind of food. They make a meal of the Muslims' kind of food. They took the time to learn their recipes, cook their food. And then what they do is they open up their church so that the people can come and recharge their cell phones, take showers, because many of them are living somewhat as homeless.
Oh, sure.
And they get a good meal that doesn't taste like away, it tastes like home. And in the process, what happens?
Yeah.
These refugees say, you know what, I think I can trust these people.
Sure, sure.
And in the process of trusting them, then relationships start, conversations start, and that, of course, sets the stage for everything else.
Would you say that that would be applicable right here, let's say, in the Northwest?
Anywhere. I think it's anywhere.
Yeah.
We have all kinds of Muslims who have come to the Northwest as refugees, and they may give you a hard look like, I don't trust you, but that's because they've learned that.
Sure.
If you're to take the time and to reach out, and I would particularly say women have an advantage over men. Because in Muslim culture, women can reach out to women. I can't reach out to a Muslim woman without it being misunderstood.
Yes.
And so therefore, women really have an advantage, and they can oftentimes go places, do things that men just can't do, and really make a big difference.
Is there anything that you found in your ministry that you might just like tell our viewing audience? Because most of us, we haven't really had that kind of an opportunity. Are there some little nuances and things that maybe you can pass on to our viewers?
Keep it simple. Keep it very simple. And don't try and win an argument. Simply present what you know. Mm-hmm. Someone will say, well, you're saying that God had to have intercourse in order for Jesus to be born. Well, there's no reason for you to try and defend that or attack it or anything else.
You can't explain it anyway.
Yeah, so just leave it alone and say, well, what I'm saying is that I've come to know Jesus, and Jesus has forgiven me, and Jesus has made me to be a totally different person.
Yeah.
What's important is that you don't push ideas before you show love. Show your love, deep, genuine love, and concern, and interest, care, and then they will be the ones to say, essentially, well, now you've shown me love and I trust you, go ahead and tell me.